that the five mortars are strong and multiplying into other cities. I hope that the business models for these, so each of these business models include a pay it forward model that associates with them, which means every community that gets a Don't Raise Statistics Community Center then adopts a foreign third world country in need, so that when the revenue starts coming in, the revenue is actually split between the location it's at as well as a third world country in need.
Welcome to Mastering the Numbers. I'm your host, Joe Mallo. Today, we have on Michelle Ramos, founder and owner of Don't Raise Statistics. Michelle, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to spend it with me.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I am very, very appreciative.
Great, great. Well, we're very happy to have you here. Can you fill in the audience a little bit, and me as well, a little bit more on Don't Raise Statistics?
Don't Raise Statistics is a for-profit civic movement. We began almost a decade ago, and it wasn't that we began to fill in what we saw, community needed. It was we grew out of what the community needed that didn't exist. So where I was being put into situations that I was seeking support and resources that I was either told don't exist or they just weren't available, that was the birth of Don't Raise Statistics, was because things I needed help with were significantly impacting the statistics that are detrimental for our youth. And for me, it was important to find ways of bridging the gap where we're not raising statistics, that we defy them and we don't become what we're predetermined to be because of data on a paper.
Great. Well, how has your business evolved from 10 years ago to today?
Oh my gosh, it became a civic movement.
Right.
10 years ago, it was not wanting to feel alone. It was wanting someone I could talk to not respond, but to listen and understand. That was 10 years ago. And through the process, what I've learned, I wasn't the only one with something that needed to be said with no one to listen. And it just evolved collectively, not even just nationally, but globally. I have clients and business partners globally that what we're learning are situations and circumstances that we once believed were uniquely individual to just us. We're finding collectively, globally, individuals are being affected by the same situation. It might be under certain or different parameters, but the root is the same. And that is how we have evolved into a more civic movement.
Can you go into that, the for-profit civic movement? Can you explain that a little bit more for myself and the audience?
Gladly. When I started this, in 2016, I was eager to be Don't Raise Statistics as a nonprofit organization, and I want to save the world.
Hmm.
And I incorporated legally with the state of Ohio and became an LLC. And I had began the paperwork and the transitioning to apply for the nonprofit status. Through that process, I had come to a lot of roadblocks where a lot of self-education was needed, because what I was taught through educational systems or through community exposure and what I believed the process and the structure to be. So when you see a mission statement on the organization publicly, and then when you walk into the doors and what you experience systemically are very different realities in a lot of cases. So that was where I had to no longer align with nonprofit. So we are currently in the transition of transferring Don't Raise Statistics to a foreign entity registered in Delaware. And then we are planning to register Don't Raise Statistics as a foreign entity operating within 5 states nationally to start. And from there, we'll expand globally. But right now, we're setting up the framework to reposition. It's more just letting the world know, like, we've always been registered and legal. Yes, there is a flyer out there that says nonprofit. That was at the beginning. I never followed through because of the
Right.
misalignment.
Yeah.
And so right now it's, just a lot of people think that nonprofit means that there's no money to be made. And the reality is that with nonprofits, they're actually very lucrative and profitable businesses. And my hope with being transparent that I am a for-profit civic movement organization is to provide transparency and accountability where I believe nonprofits should be doing, and just show the world that I can make a profit. I can do what nonprofits do, but better. And hopefully we're also applying for B Corp status. So hopefully this model, once implemented, can show the world that the human impact can be profitable as well as sustainable to make just globally better.
Yeah, great, great. So what is something that I guess that people misunderstand or get wrong about this type of movement?
I think that the biggest challenges that I personally face, like I don't really like to speak for other people. That's kind of part of
Mhm.
the reason Don't Raise Statistics exist is because there's a lot of under marginalized voices not being heard. But for myself, what I can say is that my upbringing was not typical or, storybook edition. And because I don't have a formal education that's on paper and I don't have these accolades and all these prestigious, Ivy League recognitions, a lot of the knowledge that I have and a lot of, the skills that I hold are dismissed or often not acknowledged appropriately. And I think that when our systems and our structures are being implemented, this is for our children. Like our children are the ones that are going to be our future leaders, and we really should be taking into consideration more lived experience versus academic training, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think you're seeing a transition to that right now. You've seen a lot of universities, their enrollment is down, some of them substantially because people are saying, do I need to go get a college degree? What if I just go this direction, just get experience? So I think I completely understand that because we see it happening in the real world every day. So so what are some of the not either one or a couple of the biggest failures you've had to come, challenges or failures that have shaped your organization?
Oh my God. It's probably been my entire life. It's really been, I think, so one of the most biggest ones was the fire that my daughter and I survived. And it was myself as well as 18 other families, and we all lost everything. And that was kind of one of those pivotal moments for Don't Raise Statistics that I knew moving forward, launching the investigation that I began, and then finding the courage and the discipline to follow through with filing the formal complaints, going through with the, government investigations, basically becoming a whistleblower. It was like you can't stop once you start.
Yeah.
And that was probably the moment. It was more the realization this is a civic movement and not a grassroots community organization.
Okay. Is there anything you would have done differently in the growth of your of don't raise statistics over the last 10 years? Kind of like, hindsight 2020.
No.
No.
Every single situation I've been in, every event I have survived has literally molded and shaped me into the person that I'm becoming today, which is the passion that drives me to want such a globally impactful change.
I think that's great because the failures we have should shape us, and we have to make mistakes along the way, and because that's a part of the growth of our businesses. So I like that. I like that. So what motivates you and keeps you focused, to continue to grow the organization?
My daughter,
No.
100%. So before before she existed, I literally had no want to live life. And it had been 10, 15 years of that. It was, it wasn't like I was living wanting to die. I was living to exist,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And when you just exist, you're complacent, you're just, you're not at your full potential. And when I had her, I was in the middle of addiction. I was in the middle of self-abuse with my thoughts and my actions. And I surrounded myself with just what I felt I deserved, not what I was worthy of. And then when you have a child, I mean, when I had a child, I knew that I couldn't live that lifestyle and raise this human being to be her best. And I committed to the entire lifestyle change. And, with that came, I've maintained a 280-pound weight loss for over a decade. I've fully mastered a new mindset with a full lifestyle change of putting myself first and loving myself
Yeah.
and having to not feel guilty about that and knowing if I don't love myself, how can I love her to build a better world for her?
Yeah. Yeah, I think having kids change it certainly changes your life. So it did mine as well. So you mentioned something in a previous conversation we had about building in the absence of help. Um, what kind of support would actually make a difference in your organization? I guess explain building an absence of help, and then maybe take it a little bit further and what type of help are you looking for?
Well, um, um, I don't know if this will help explain it. So this is more real-time current event situation that kind of helps explain it. For the last 2 years, we've been aggressively advocating with local city administration, mayor, city council, things of that nature, going to local city,
Yeah,
organizations. We've been dismissed, not acknowledged. We've been sorry, that's not what we do. Maybe they can help you. It's just been that for 2 years.
yeah,
Um, so I had to spend a significant portion of time recently educating myself on what is the difference between a city council and a county council? What is the difference between the Summit County executor versus the city of Akron mayor? Like, so basically, I had to self-educate to understand what these roles are in government. So where we've been deflected for 2 years with receipts, mind you, I was able to send an email to the county executor, sit down 2 days later with State Representative Sykes' staff, and within 48 hours, there's been action.
great.
So it's more so, again, it's kind of going back,
Right.
Was I dismissed for the last 2 years with these emails and questions and voicemails because I'm just a tenant? Was I dismissed because I don't have that prestigious Ivy League degree like yourself. You're not you, but do you see like so it's so it's that full circle. It's listening to understand what the needs are. I recently had aligned in a program I thought was going to be beneficial as far as access to a level of leadership within the community that I would have never had access. And when I obtained it and I thought it was a lifeline, I found out that we were actually fully misaligned and I needed to part ways. I don't want to make decisions behind boardroom doors. We need to be in the streets of these marginalized neighborhoods, giving them the resources that they need, not what we think they want.
Right, right. I think that's important. And I think another thing that you're doing, you're getting ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign. Is that correct?
We are.
What's the purpose of that? Where do those resources go?
So that is exactly why I said I hope to set a new precedence and a new model moving forward that hopefully nonprofits will follow. So we are preparing a $2 million crowdfunding campaign. So where it gets tricky and where a lot of people are like, oh, that's not possible is when you're using GoButter or GoFundMe and platforms like that, generally you have to be a nonprofit. The truth is you don't. You can be a for-profit entity and you are fully capable of accepting these forms of donations. The difference is where my transparency comes into play. The $2 million is to begin the funding of the 5 brick and mortars in the 5 cities we wish to launch, as well as the 6th one in Delaware, even though like we have no grassroots in Delaware currently. That is the best location for international registration. If I'm going to be registering, I want Don't Raise Statistics to be benefiting the community it's in. So the funding is to begin the brick and mortars, pulling in the staff and getting what need is doing the community surveying and research and development with teams on the streets, on foot, asking, knocking on doors, finding out what's needed. Another thing is that when nonprofits are given grants and funding, and then the community is coming to them and they're needing resources, there's wait lists. There's endless paperwork that needs to be filed justifying where the money's going. Why should I have to sit here and fill out all these forms, submit all these papers to the government to justify some money because this person's rent, they're going to be evicted in 48 hours. Their lights are going to be shut off in 96 hours. I don't have 96 hours to fill out what you feel is necessary to make sure this family's surviving. I think there's the disconnect is what people believe is happening in poverty and people living survival mode versus the reality of the loopholes that they make them jump through to ask for help. It gets to the point that people would rather struggle and suffer than ask for help.
Yeah, yeah. I think I see that. So you mentioned that part of the resource would be someone who's getting evicted or their energy bills or their energy is getting shut off. What other types of things do you expect to help out the community with, or the people in the
So
community?
our children need access to trusted mentors and programs. We have a system that is built that they want to immediately antagonize a parent because the child is failing, or a parent wants to go after a teacher because they don't feel that they're doing right. But the reality is that maybe that's a single parent household, that parent's working 2 jobs to keep the bills paid and a roof over their child's head. And when they're coming home, they're exhausted and they don't have it in them to help tutor their child through academia.
Yeah.
We need to be providing the support and the resources that are showing, like when you're coming out of prison or you're going into children's services, you don't need the government or these, institutions stepping in and giving you these loopholes, making it harder. You need long-term planning to help you build the skill set to get out of that area.
Yeah.
And with Don't Raise Statistics, it's not coming in and putting a Band-Aid. We need to be going into cities where homeless camps are being shut down. You got the cameras there for 48 hours. You got a team there for 72 hours. Where's the support in the weeks and months after ensuring they was able to get stable housing? Where's the support after ensuring that in this transition, they're getting showers, they're getting food? Where's the transition making sure their children are getting medical and psychiatric care? Because at the end of everything I have discussed, it's the mental trauma. We are not addressing the trauma that is being done because of these systems. And if we are not implementing trauma-informed preventive measures, we're only putting Band-Aids on bullet holes.
Yeah. What I know there's a lot of challenges that come with doing this type of work. What is the most challenging part of dealing with this or trying to solve this problem?
I think now I'm getting enough traction that I can honestly say there are no problems. I
Okay.
can say previously, the biggest challenge and the biggest obstacle that I had to get through was discovering who Michelle Ramos was and trusting Michelle. That that'll make me cry. That was the hardest fight.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Let me ask you this: where do you see don't raise statistics in the next 12 to 36 months? What's your vision of where it's at?
In the next 3 years, I hope that the five mortars are strong and multiplying into other cities. I hope that the business models for these, so each of these business models include a pay it forward model that associates with them, which means every community that gets a Don't Raise Statistics community center then adopts a foreign third world country in need so that when the revenue starts coming in, the revenue is actually split between the location it's at as well as a third world country in need. So my hope is that basically for every center, it's really two. So it doubles every time. Instead of it just being one, it'll double. So within 3 years, I hope that I've done enough physical, tangible, visible work because the last 10 years is the behind the scenes, all the documenting, all the data
Yeah,
analysis. So I hope that now moving forward, the next 3 to 10 years is just showing the world that it's possible to make a profit, to give back in a humanitarian way that globally everybody is, you know, impacted, and just that kindness can really, like money's not our issue in the world,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we're not chasing money. We just want a better impact.
yeah. Right. Where do you see your legacy, or what does your legacy mean to you when when this is all, when it's up and running, and let's say we're all gone?
I didn't grow up with a mom I could say I'm proud of. I didn't grow up with any examples of who I should be. I want to know that when I'm no longer here, my daughter says that that's my mom and I'm proud of her. Is it?
I think that's going to happen. I believe that that'll happen. I really do. Listen, I'm glad you were on today. I really like what you're doing for the community, multiple communities. Um, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way or best way to reach out?
I'm on LinkedIn, Michelle Ramos, obviously. That's a really good way. I don't do a lot of social media, personal engaging. I definitely do prefer private, impactful collaborations. I have catharticcatalyst@gmail.com. And then really it's pretty easy. I mean, you can go to Google
Yeah.
and type in Michelle Ramos, Barber Beauty 413, and globally you find me.
And we'll make sure when the podcast gets released that we'll have all your contact information on there
Absolutely.
as well. So, listen, I really appreciate you being on today. I can't wait to see, how your organization looks in the next year, 2, 5, 10 years. I
Uh,
will be paying attention. And I'd also like to thank everybody for watching. And then, of course, a quick shout out to my marketing team at Check Off Your List, Alyssa and Lisa, for making these podcasts actually happen. So, thank you, everybody. And Michelle, once again, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
I can't wait. Thank you.
All right. Take care. You've just tuned into another episode of Mastering the Numbers. We hope you found valuable insight to boost your financial success. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Keep pushing forward, and thanks for listening.